Hi, good to be with you. First and foremost, we worry about your safety. There is a weather event going on, and we want to make sure that everybody's safe. As of right now, I am aware that the Wednesday night meals have been canceled. The Wednesday evening service has also been canceled. We want to make sure that you all stay safe. So stay home, keep track of the weather. For our meditation this week, we continue in the first letter to the Corinthians. You might recall that the church in Corinth was experiencing a lot of conflict. There was factionalism going on, people taking sides, there was competition, there was inappropriate behavior. So Paul writes this letter to help them work things out. You might remember from last week, we began at the very beginning, the introduction to the letter, and Paul reminds them of who they are and whose they are, that they are saints and that they belong to one another. And so this week we just continue part of that introduction. We are in verses 10 through 18. And Paul makes this impossible request, or what we might think is this impossible request. I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, to be unified in mind and in purpose. That's a hard call, right? To be unified within our factions, to be unified within our differences, to be agreement on purpose. But here's the thing about Paul's request. He doesn't mean unity as far as uniformity. He does not mean unity in that we all have to agree on everything. See, what Paul's doing here, what he started in Corinth and other churches, was to create this church of great diversity. To bring together in one place people who are rich and poor, people who are free and slave, people who are Jew and Greek. To bring all that difference into one place and then call for unity. You and I would say you're only asking for a fight, right? As you bring all these immense differences together. The rich look at the world in a totally different way than the poor, the slave from the free, the Greek from the Jew, right? So his unity is not an erasure of the diversity. In fact, his unity calls on them to look at the otherness, to look at the distinctiveness of each one, and to respect that, to understand it, to approach it. His unity is in Christ. It's hard to wrap our minds around, right? Especially when we look at the world from our Western eyes, from our United States eyes, where we put a lot of value on individual freedom. Right? When you value individual freedom, it's hard to have any unity. Each person looking out for themselves. So Paul is asking the church to look at the good of the whole. What is needed for the whole. Right? And we think of that in terms of Martin Luther King Jr., who we just celebrated a couple days ago. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us that nobody is free unless we're all free. that nobody has it good unless we all have it good. The unity does not come in our all agreeing on doctrine. Our unity does not come in our agreement on the color of the carpet. Our unity comes by being in Christ and by working that out together. You might remember when Paul calls us saints, it's always plural. It's never individual. That as we belong in Christ, we belong in one another. And that's our unity. That's where we're called to be. We will continue to have disagreements. We will continue not to be alike, but that's the beauty. Diversity is important in the life of the church, but we have unity within that diversity. A lot to wrap your minds around, and I need to think about it a little bit further myself, but we'll see you soon.